Hey, welcome to the Alternate Football Podcast. I'm glad you could join me. If this is your first time seeing this on YouTube, please hit like and subscribe if you like what you hear. If you prefer not to look at my face while I'm talking, just download the podcast version, which will be up shortly after I finish recording this. If you also would like to join the chat or send an email with questions or comments, alternatefootball.podcast@gmail. Also follow me, alternate_football_podcast on Instagram. I'm also live on that right now. So let's get into, with all that straightened out, let's get into the news since there's quite a bit going on this week in alternate football. Probably biggest thing this week is Johnny Manziel, after being released from his contract by the CFL from the Montreal Alouettes, he has joined the Memphis Express, and there's some likelihood that he will be playing this season. The season's already half over, but they don't really have a quarterback, so if this league looks like it's going to be coming back for a second season, you might as well get a head start and get him getting used to the playbook with some practices and some game time. Just treat this season like the beginning of next season's prep work. So that's probably going to be happening. I don't know if he'll start this week, but he might get some few reps if they're really down, especially since they are very behind in the Eastern Conference, they're the last place team in the East, and I doubt they'll have. I think they don't really have a chance of catching at Birmingham at this point for the second playoff spot. So might as well start. So this week in the Alliance of American Football, we had a few. Well, let's say two good games and two terrible games. And the first game of the week, you had the Memphis Express go in and lose to the Salt Lake Stallions. That was on Saturday. They lost 22-9. I don't really have much to say about the Stallions, about the Express, because they were absolutely terrible. The Stallions actually looked okay. Silvers to the Express, Silvers to Joe Horn. Silvers on the Express was 8 of 10 for 129 yards and 2 turnovers. So that's the 2 turnovers are the bad point. He really was making good completions because he had a very good completion percentage, but he didn't play the whole game, obviously, because the injury. But Silvers and Horn look like they have definitely had a lot of practice with each other in preseason, and maybe on the second line. They were able to hook up quite a few times, almost as if Horn was just an extension of Silver's arm. So it was quite impressive. Well, I have a feeling Silvers, with the relationship with Horn, will get the start this week. And then maybe if they get far behind, they'll bring in Manziel. But we'll see when we come to that. And the Stallions, the only reason they weren't farther ahead was the 4 turnovers. They should have beat the Express by a lot farther margin. They had 21 first downs to Memphis's 14, which is quite a large spread difference. So in the second game, the first of the good games, the Arizona Hotshots beat the Orlando Apollos to make the Orlando Apollos no longer undefeated. So they are now 5-1. And that kept the Arizona Hotshots in contention against the Fleet right now. So the Western Conference is really getting very close. The Apollos, they really they should have won the game, really. But the offensive line for the Apollos just wasn't protecting Garrett Gilbert. He had so many rushes and many sacks, and he just wasn't being protected like they have been doing the rest of the season. So it was quite impressive. In the next game, the game that I actually went to, being an Atlanta Legends season ticket holder, I went to the Commanders. 37 went into Atlanta, and Atlanta only scored 6. There's not really much I can say about the Atlanta Legends. If in terms of first downs, it was very close. But considering Aaron Murray threw 4 interceptions, but he really should have thrown 7, because there were a few drop picks that prove that the only people who can't catch more than wide receivers in this league are cornerbacks. Cornerbacks can't catch at all. Like, if this was the NFL, some of those throws would have been, he would have had 7 interceptions. It was a very poor showing. It was absolutely terrible. Now, how much of that is Aaron Murray throwing it to the wrong spot, or just not getting proper timing with the players, like the wide receiver and the quarterback just being in sync on where the football is going to be going? Who can really say, honestly? But I would say Aaron Murray has got to take part of the blame, because he made some very poor throws. His choices in terms of, he was trying to force the ball in places where there was no way he would be able to fit it. He didn't use his feet enough. He didn't move around in the pocket. That's pretty much all I got to say. The Commanders still look very good. It's the Western Conference. They're going to be entertaining coming into the playoffs. Now, once we get into the playoffs, they're all going to be entertaining, because playoff football is the best. But right now, I think the East, on us, when the Iron play Apollos, it's pretty much pointless watching games at this point. But I will be watching all of them. And then the other fantastic game this week on Sunday night, the Iron went in and beat the Fleet in San Diego 29-26 on a last minute, or a walk-off field goal. Last minute, yeah, it was in the last minute, but it was really a walk-off field goal by Nick Novak, coming back to the old San Diego Charger Stadium and winning the game for his new team. But the Iron, they really should have won this game by a lot farther, because they won the offensive side. They were 24-14 on first downs, and they held on to the ball 36 minutes to 23 minutes for the Fleet in time of possession. LaDainian Washington was really one of the biggest standouts for the Iron. He had 128 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 77 yards after the catch, which is really good. And on one of those plays, the one right after that, on the Fleet side, Dontez Ford had a fantastic yards to catch. He only had 3 receptions. He went 182 yards and had 122 yards after the catch. That's insane. Now, most of that was just those 2 plays that happened right after each other. The 2 longest plays in Alliance football history happened in this game 1 snap after each other, which is that makes it a really fun game to see. So, but that walk-off field goal was really fun. That was a fun game to watch. So next weekend, the Alliance of American Football, the Apollos go into the Legends on Sunday, or on Saturday, the early Saturday game. That one's on TNT. Obviously, the Apollos will make it 6-1, and the Legends will fall to 4. I don't think anyone thinks that. I'm just curious who the Legends will start. It'll probably be Murray, but we'll see if they pull him out and start this. I want to say Pujols, but I don't think that's right. I know he's not Albert Pujols. I don't know exactly how to say his name. They might play him. Well, we'll see how that comes down. In the second game, a very important game on NFL Network Saturday night, the Stallions going to San Antonio to play the Commanders. Essentially, the Stallions are playing for their chance to make it into the playoffs in this game. So this is kind of the beginning of the playoff games. If the Stallions don't win this game, they could essentially kiss their playoff hopes goodbye. Now, mathematically, that might not be true, but the way they've been playing this year and the way the other teams in the West are playing right now, they're 4th in the West. If they don't win, it's essentially over. In the early game on Sunday on CBS Sports Network, the Fleet play the Hot Shots, a very important game to figure out who will be second in the West and be in that playoff spot right now. Now, they are essentially, they're tied right now. They're both at 500. So if one of them, the one who wins this game, which I really do think will probably be the Hot Shots because they took it to the Apollos with fantastic defense. This will put whoever wins this game in the best chance to take the second playoff spot for the Alliance. Now, that it doesn't mean that the season's over for the other team. It just means they have a leg up on them. In the final game on Sunday night on NFL Network, the Iron going to Memphis to play the Express. Obviously the Iron's going to win. But the interesting thing is, will we see Johnny Manziel this early? Because I doubt he's learned all of the offense yet. So will they just toss him in there, like learn by the fire hose, as it were, to see if they could possibly turn it around? We'll see. So those are the games for the Alliance this week. This week in the IFL, they weren't really super exciting games, to be honest, this week. In the first game of the week, Quad City Steamwheelers went into Cedar Rapids and beat the River Kings 58-36. Quad City EJ Hilliard threw 12 of 19 for 147 yards and 6 touchdowns. And Quentin Pedroza, he got the Offensive Player of the Week this week in the IFL. He had 6 catches for 105 yards, 4 receiving touchdowns, and 2 running touchdowns. And Quad City led the first down advantage, 21-9 first downs in the game. So complete and utter domination. Quad City is showing that they are one of the better teams in the IFL and definitely need to keep an eye on them as the season goes along. In the second game of the week, the Sioux Falls Storm went into Bismarck and beat the Bismarck Bucks 52-18. Another fantastic team, the Sioux Falls Storm, another one of the best. They've been to a few United Bowls. And the Bismarck Bucks, they are not great. They're one of the smaller market teams. I don't really have anything to say about this game because it was just a blowout from the very beginning. Although the one positive side for the Bismarck Bucks, their returner did get Special Teams Player of the Week. But when you lose 52-18, that's not really all that important, and you fall to 0-3. And the game I was hoping was going to be very entertaining, especially like from a fan's perspective because of being in Arizona. And the first time these two teams met, the Tucson Sugar Skulls went to Arizona to play the Rattlers, and they lost hard, 63-28. Unfortunately, being an expansion team and going up against one of the greatest arena indoor football franchises in history just didn't work out for them being the expansion team. So unfortunately, now I hope they stick around. Hopefully it's successful in Tucson. I like their field. I like their players. I think they can really build a fan base based off of a rivalry with the Rattlers, or maybe some people in the Tucson area might have an affinity for the Rattlers and indoor football in general. We'll have to see how that turns out. The Sugar Skulls are still above 500 with this loss, so if they can make a few adjustments, we'll have to see how they turn it around. This week, there's only 3 games in the IFL this weekend. The Quad City Steamwheelers. This is the first game, and it's very exciting. It's on Friday night. Quad City Steamwheelers playing the Sioux Falls Storm. So this is going to be one of the games that really decide or show us who really is the best team right now in the IFL. Well, there's 2 teams in this one that'll really help tell who's the best, and there's still the Rattlers out here and the Iowa Barnstormers out here going like, hey, what about us? We're fantastic too. But this is almost like one of the first playoff games to figure out who really has control of the league right now. In the second game, the Iowa Barnstormers go in to Nebraska and play the Danger. I do think the Iowa Barnstormers have this game. They're going to look fantastic. So they're another one of the top teams in the league right now. And then in the last game, the Green Bay Blizzard go into San Diego to play the Strike Force. This one might be an entertaining game. Now, there might be only like 20 people in the stands in San Diego. I heard a rumor this week of possibly the IFL wanting to expand into was it Los Angeles? They're looking into other California cities so they can expand their Western market a lot. And I really hope they would think about bringing in the San Jose SaberCats, or maybe Spokane, since they had a Spokane team. They just didn't call them the Shock. They really need to bring back the Spokane Shock and actually call them the Shock. I wasn't watching the IFL when the Empire, I believe their name was. So if for some reason, if you want to comment and let me know why the Spokane franchise in the IFL failed, I very much would like to know why. I think if you brought back a team and called it the Shock, it possibly would resonate more with the Spokane people, because that was a fantastic franchise in the past. So my hope is San Jose SaberCats, or Spokane Shock, or LA Avengers. That'd be very cool to have Avengers back. I think we need a team in Las Vegas. And by I mean football fans. I think any league besides the NFL, the Raiders will be there, and after this year. But I think an arena football team in Vegas would be very important now that we have the Atlantic City. And I think the IFL would be the better choice of league for a team in Vegas. I don't think it's a good idea for National Arena League or Arena Football League, unless there's some sort of merger in the future, to put a team in Vegas. So back to the Blizzard and Strike Force game. It's going to be entertaining. Both these teams are, let's just face it, they're both pretty bad. So this might be a fair game, which whenever I'm watching a game, when it's not a team that I consider myself a fan of, I mostly just want to see an entertaining game, a closely matched game. Even if they're not very good teams, as long as they're close, it makes it more entertaining. I don't like watching games like the Sioux Falls Storm versus the Bismarck Bucks this week. That was a terrible game. I stopped watching after the third quarter and skipped forward until the end of the game. Since I don't usually watch these games live because I'm usually doing something. Usually I'm watching the Alliance live, and then the IFL I catch up as I go along. And I plan on doing the same thing with Arena Football League and National Arena League. Now, after the Alliance is over, the National Arena League and the Arena Football League are going to start here in April. So it's gonna get quite busy here in April and May with the playoffs in the Alliance, IFL, or National Arena League starting, Arena Football League starting. All these leagues are going to be starting. There's going to be a lot of football to watch. So I probably will watch every single game. But sometimes I might just have to skip around a little bit more once that happens because the schedule is really starting to ramp up again and really get into this spring season of football. So with that, guys, that's everything I got to say this week. I'll talk to you next week and break down all the games from this week. Just click like or subscribe. Subscribe to me on Instagram. Subscribe on iTunes or any of your RSS readers. And have a good night and enjoy the football. Bye.